is a drawer. There's supposed to be some papers in it, but there was like a robbery or something, and there aren't. So this is how you repair it. You take see, that's some wood glue. It looks like pudding, but it's wood glue. So this is sort of consistent with some other themes we've been talking about on the blog, which is along the lines of, you know, what I used to say to people, she used to say to me in 3rd grade, you're rubber, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. So that's sort of similar to the terrorist equivalency exam. They like to call Al-Qaeda terrorists, but it turns out, or they call Al-Shabaab terrorists, but they're just as bad, if not worse, because they lie and they tell people that they're trying to solve crimes for them, and they never do. All they do is commit armed kidnapping for ransom. That's all they ever do. Armed kidnapping, armed extortion, just stuff like that. But it's also kind of like the tort reform thing we talked about a little. You know how Congress has been debating the tort reform issue for 30 years and they still can't figure it out. You know how corporations that fund campaigns for congressmen, they don't like having to deal with lawsuits, and normally they can't just kill people who file lawsuits or kidnap them or whatever, but so they pretend like there's this sort of civil process they're supposed to go through, and they're supposed to sponsor you know, a congressman, and then they're supposed to get together and gang up and on behalf of corporations say that they you can't file frivolous lawsuits. The idea is that they end up having to bribe judges to agree also, is that the idea is that the court system, which consists of judges, is unable to function because there's an excessive number of what they call frivolous lawsuits. But in 30 years you'll never hear them say the term frivolous defenses to lawsuits. But that's half the problem. For example, in my case, it's nothing but frivolous motions to dismiss. I filed one pretty simple 10-page complaint. Other people would have complaints. I mean, it was sort of complicated and insofar as it involved the police department, the city as a sponsor of the police department, landlord who had conspired with the police department to commit armed kidnapping and other stuff, aggravated torture, and a couple of other individual employees of theirs. So, you know, if an attorney got a hold of that, they might write you a 60-page, pretty complicated document. I did it in 10 pages. Then a judge asked for 2 or 3 revisions after they filed frivolous motions to dismiss. Frivolous defenses. And so 7 frivolous motions to dismiss later, the court file went from 10 pages to approximately 1,600 pages. And it never did get to a trial or anything even vaguely resembling a trial. Total fucking waste of time. So the problem isn't that people are filing frivolous lawsuits. The problem is that people are filing frivolous defenses. And this is just that they're filing frivolous defenses. They're out on getting their buddies out on the street. They gang up and go do the fucking armed kidnapping thing again, several times over. And you know, that's illegal. That's like racketeering. That's like if you tried to sue like fucking John Gotti or like Al Capone or something. They just send some people over to kill you or whatever. By the way, when they're doing those falsified, when they go with their friend at a convenience store and they get into those falsified felony pursuits, especially if they involve falsified weapons, that's almost like a murder attempt, because like they're entitled to just walk up and shoot you, and if there's no witnesses around, which there never are, they make up whatever the fuck story they want to, and you're just dead. There's various things that prevent them from doing that, such as, you know, last second out of the corner, there's a witness over there, you know, so they're like, oh, okay, all right. And then we also talked about another congressman was making a comment on the choking death, the overweight guy in New York, and he said, well, it was his own fault because he was too easy to choke. And just because you're easy to choke doesn't mean that someone's not trying to kill you when you're choking you. It's still attempted murder. And the other case they had with a guy that got shot in the head 10 times. If you shoot someone 2 or 3 times, maybe you aren't trying to kill them. Depends on like how big they are and if they don't fall down or that kind of stuff, I guess. But if you shoot them 10 times in the head, you're probably trying to kill them. I don't really think it's an issue. So anyway, so there's that, and then insurance fraud, as you think of it, is fraudulent insurance claims to get illegally steal insurance pool money for a fraudulent claim. However, there's the exact opposite of that, which is insurance fraud, which is defrauding a victim with a legitimate claim by committing insurance fraud, such as falsifying medical records. You can falsify medical records on either side. It just so happens that the falsification of medical records, in my case, occurred under false pretenses and armed kidnapping, and was committed. The falsified medical records were made by the defendants in the original case. That's all kinds of no-no. I was actually, at the time they did that too, I had 3 separate second opinions pending, scheduled with independent doctors under contract to Social Security, federal government, which supposedly has nothing to do with the local government, but you know how they go, get mixed up with each other's shit. But so they heard I was going to go get some independent exams, and they do this armed kidnapping thing and falsify medical records. Just in case it accidentally went to trial after their 7 fraudulent motions dismissed, which I wasn't going to anyway. They did that shit. So yeah, that's three different kinds of I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. Is you say Al Qaeda terrorists? They prove that you're terrorists. It's on video. They have the dead bodies. Then there was frivolous lawsuits. No, the problem is not frivolous lawsuits. You're frivolous. It's frivolous defenses. And then you had insurance fraud. No, it's not insurance fraud. You're committing insurance fraud. You're defrauding a victim from a legitimate claim with by committing insurance fraud. That's not what the common understanding of the term insurance fraud is. But if you actually, I haven't looked at the technical definitions and various statutes, but they might only apply to insurance pools as opposed to victims with legitimate claims who were victimized a second time when an insurance company commits insurance fraud. Oh, by the way, there was a private insurance company involved in an out-of-state insurance company. Normally, if people are getting private insurance, they'll have a plan within at least the state lines, if not the county lines. These people had to go all the way to New York from Florida to get an insurance plan. And that's kind of bizarre. The landlord had to go 2 counties up the highway to find a defense attorney, by the way. He couldn't get one in the metropolitan area, apparently. That was Sam Zell, the multi-billionaire from Chicago. Sometimes they'll say, you'll hear stupid things, or it'll sound like people are trying to blame the insurance company. It wasn't the insurance company, it was the city. The city actually is self-insured. They have their own it's like a $5 million insurance pool they made under their own city ordinance or whatever. Which actually seems really small, because over the same 10-year time period, I heard Chicago paid out $400 million. Last I heard, Metro Chicago is somewhere between 6 million and 7 million people, and Metro Orlando is about 2 million, so they're about 1/3 the size of Chicago. Over the same time period, they should have been paying out, approximately 130 million, just based on population, not on level of violence. But in retrospect, I look back on that and I call Orlando the world's most violent insurance fraud fugitives, because that's, Chicago will sit down and talk about their case. Orlando will try to kill you or kidnap you or all that other shit. They had their own $5 million insurance pool. I don't think they ever paid anything out of it. But if they did, it wouldn't have been a problem, because their annual tax revenues are something like $7 billion anyway, and you have $7 billion. It's a couple million here and there, but and then they're talking about their $400 million NFL stadium, their $2 billion NFL stadium, their $400 million basketball arena, and all this other shit. Just like, yeah, you're so fucking broke, you need to be kidnapping people and risking 30 years to life in prison instead of going to your civil trial. So that's actually on top of the frivolous defenses that their lawyer was filing in the court, out on the street. That's what they were doing, was armed stalking, armed kidnapping, armed intimidation of a witness, and falsification of medical records.